Hi there, it's Kristen from k.becca, and in this video I'll be showing you a quick comparison of how different watercolor mediums react with the ink for the Silhouette Mint. I'll be using the black ink for testing since it's the color that is most commonly used. And before I start testing, I'll need to ink up the stamp. I'm using a stamp that I made earlier, and if you want to see the stamp making process from start to finish, check out the video in the link that should be popping up right about now. The mint ink comes in little bottles, and to ink a stamp, you need to squeeze out the ink to cover all of the lines and graphic elements in the stamp. I want to be careful and cover every little bit of the stamp, and I'm trying to get the coverage as even as I can so I won't have light spots in some places when I stamp. After I'm finished inking the stamp, I need to let it sit for several minutes. The instructions in the booklet that came with the mint say you should let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes depending on the design. I usually wait 7 or 8 minutes, and I've gotten good results with that amount of wait time. After about 7 minutes is up, I'll take a piece of regular printer paper and start stamping out the excess ink from the stamp. The paper is folded in half so the ink from the first stamped impressions doesn't leak through to my work surface. But if you're using cardstock or thicker paper, you probably won't need to fold it in half. You can see that the first several stamped impressions are pretty inky. It usually takes me about 8 or so impressions to get all of the excess ink off of the stamp, but it will vary depending on the stamp design and the amount of ink that you add. Once I'm getting clean impressions, I'm ready to stamp onto the paper that I'll be using to test the watercolors with the ink. In this case, I'll be using a piece of Strathmore Bristol smooth paper, which is my favorite mixed media paper and one that I often use for watercoloring. After I've stamped the paper several times, I'll allow the ink to dry for about 30 to 45 seconds, and then I'm ready to start testing the different types of watercolor mediums with the ink. The first type of watercolors that I'll be testing are the Sakura Koi watercolors. Of all the watercolor mediums that I tested, this was the one that I used the most water with, and I'm not sure if you can see this as you're watching the video, but when I apply the watercolor to the paper, the ink from the mint visibly repels the water. The ink didn't smear or bleed at all. I think it's fair to say that this ink is water resistant and safe to use with watercolors, but I still want to show you how some other types of watercolors behave with the ink. Next up is a Zig Clean Color Real Brush Pen, and I'll quickly brush that over about half of the stamped area. Then I'll come in with a wet paintbrush and start moving the color, and you can see that the ink doesn't smear or bleed at all. Next, I'm testing a Distress ink marker, and I'll scribble that over part of the stamped area, just like I did with the Zig Clean Color, and then I'll come in with a wet paintbrush to get the color moving. The results are the same, no smearing or bleeding from the mint ink. If I had thought of it, I would have tested a regular Distress ink pad too. But even though I didn't test the Distress ink in ink pad form, I think that I can safely say that the results would have been very, very similar. After the Distress marker, I tested a Derwent Inktense pencil. I scribbled it over part of the stamped area, just like I did with the brush pen and marker, and then I came in with a wet paintbrush to get the color moving. Again, no smearing or bleeding with the ink from the mint. Finally, I wanted to try a regular watercolor pencil. I'm using a Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer pencil, but you could use any brand. Scribble, scribble, then add water, and the results are the same. No bleeding, no smearing. I'm really happy that the mint ink is water resistant because this means that there's a whole new world of possibilities for the stamps that you make with the mint. I hope that you found this testing to be helpful and that you've gotten some new ideas about what you can do with the mint. You can find a full list of supplies used in this video in the description area below or in the area below the video if you're watching on k.becca.com. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos about the Silhouette Mint, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.